So just about a month ago, I did the unthinkable, and I decided that in 2020, I wanted to try a paper planner, the Full Focus Planner to be exact. And if you know me, you know that that is a huge deal because I am digital everything. In fact, I somewhat make fun of people that use paper because I think it just doesn't make sense whatsoever. But after hearing a ton about the Full Focus Planner and what some people talked about, I wanted to try to see how it might work as someone who is all digital, but being able to bring this in for certain reasons and see if it actually helps productivity. And I've been using it for about a month and a half. So I wanted to tell you about what I think so far. I posted recently on this YouTube channel and a bunch of people had asked me what I thought of it so far because people know me as someone who's really into digital. I have an iPad and an iPhone and I have a Mac and I basically do everything digitally. I don't take any notes on paper because I like to have things in both places. I use an iPad with an Apple Pencil to be able to keep digital written notes, but having something paper means it's only in one location at one time, and that's been my biggest gripe of actually going to anything paper. But I found that there were times that I had so many tasks building up on all the different platforms that I keep. So we use Asana for task management at Scaling Creative, and then I have obviously my normal calendar, my Google Calendar that I do all my actual organizing in. But sometimes I found that I was forgetting to prioritize specifically the most important things for that day. So the thing that enticed me the most about the Full Focus Planner was the actual day pages. There are so many different things that people use the Full Focus Planner for, but to me the biggest selling point was these day pages. And the day pages are really simply your daily big three, and then your schedule for the day, and then just a notes section. And for me, the daily big three was literally the biggest selling point to me. Being able to, before each day starts, really prioritize what 3 things at the bare minimum do I have to get done today. You see, my Asana list can get really full of things and it can keep building up and keep building up, and my calendar as well can have a bunch of things that are happening in that day. But trying to prioritize 3 things that are a must that have to happen have really actually been helping me a lot over these last month and a half as I've been using the Full Focus Planner. And sure, I can prioritize tasks in Asana and put something at the top of the list or make the due date a certain time or the due time a certain time, and all that works, and it's been pretty effective. But I found that too many times I was getting done with the workday and not being able to complete all the tasks that I had made to myself, and then what's happening is some of the most important ones are getting pushed to the next day. And I wanted to see if I could find a hybrid solution that would allow me to be able to use this to help with just those important things. There's a lot more to the Full Focus Planner, like your goals that you create and your goal detail, talking about the goals that you want to achieve, when you want to achieve them, and goal trackers, keeping track of all those things. And then there's obviously month views of the calendars to be able to keep track of things, and all those things are useful, and I've used a little bit of all those to just try it out. But really for me, what's been the most beneficial out of everything is simply the day pages and then the weekly review, which at the end of the week, being able to look back and say, did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? At the end of each week in the planner, you have what's called the weekly preview, and it says what are your 3 biggest wins for this week, and your after action reviews. You look back at your previous weekly big 3 and how far did you get in those goals, and what worked and what didn't, and what will you keep doing or improve or start doing based on the last week. And then we'll ask you what major events or deadlines need to be put on a calendar or need to get created or done next week. And then you have step 5, which is the weekly big 3, where you refer to the things that you need to get done and you create what is the weekly big 3. And then throughout the week you have the daily big 3. So it sounds kind of confusing, but it's been really beneficial because what I do is I'm able to put in like the weekly big 3 at the beginning. So typically I do that on, let's just say, a Sunday evening or maybe even on a Friday afternoon. I take a look back at all the stuff that happened in the week. I write down what worked, what didn't, how far I got in certain things, what are my biggest wins, which really helps me to be able to celebrate good things that are happening. But then I'm able to take a look and say, okay, well, let's take a look at next week and see what are the biggest things that I have to get done next week. And then I start to implement those into daily big 3s to make sure that I'm hitting them, and it helps in the end of the week to actually look back at them and see did I actually make any progress on the things that I wanted to do. So the way that I've been using it alongside of my digital platform is each and every morning at the start of every morning, so let's just say 7:30 or 8 a.m. in the morning, morning, sometimes before I get into work, I look at my calendar for the day, and my calendar is obviously always having things being put in digitally. So I'm always putting things in advance, I'm moving things around, I'm rearranging things. That's all always happening no matter what, and that is 100% digital. None of the calendar stuff that I do is set in stone on the Full Focus Planner, except the day that is actually about to start. So at 8 a.m. each day, I look at my calendar and I review all the tasks that I have in Asana, and I try to figure out what are the 3 things that I have to accomplish today, and those go on my daily big 3 for that day, and then I simply write in on the side there for the calendar what I'm supposed to be doing that day based on the copy of my digital calendar, and then I go into work and do my regular work stuff. Depending on how long the tasks are, they may be something that I can finish in a matter of hour for all 3, or it might be something that takes all day, and it really is up to me to really look at that big 3 and decide how long those things are going to take, and to make sure that I actually stay on them and get them finished. Now, underneath the daily big 3, there's obviously more and more tasks you can put in. So you can put as many things as you want in here, but the real big point behind the Full Focus Planner that I've heard them talk a lot about, Michael Hyatt and company, is just being able to make sure you prioritize the most important things, because as someone who has a lot of different things going on, sometimes it can be just hard to remember and prioritize the most important things. So it's totally okay to go past those big 3s, but for me, it's just good to look at the 3 that are most important first. Throughout the month and a half that I've been using it, I don't think I've ever missed one of my actual big 3 tasks, and I think there's just something to be said about a physical piece of paper, and the feel of checking off those items is just extremely satisfying, even more satisfying sometimes than a digital thing in Asana where you're kind of completing a task. And so I think that's kind of the mindset of why this is paper versus digital. I've thought so many times about how great it would be to have these kind of documents as like PDF documents or something on the actual iPad so I could do these things digitally, but I think there's something to be said about why it actually is paper, and it's maybe the idea of being able to disconnect from your digital device and your digital worlds and be able to just prioritize the things that are most important. But it is something that takes getting used to, and depending on what you use this for, you may not necessarily have to take notes in here at all. I tend to only take notes on the right side of the page in the dailies just to be able to jot something down quickly if it's open and in front of me. But for the most part, I still do all my note taking on my actual iPad. But it's just a really nice, satisfying, and productive feeling to go into each morning, look at what you have to do, prioritize your top 3 and put that in your top 3. Make sure you complete your top 3 first and then move on to other tasks. But it also really helps me to look back at the end. Probably my favorite thing is that weekly review, because it helps me to look back and say, how did this week go? What worked, what didn't, what do I need to improve? And that's been good because it kind of forces you to reflect, because you don't want to leave the pages blank, so it makes you write something in that, and there's just that satisfying feeling to me that makes me actually do it, and it lets me look back at the week and really try to evaluate how I can improve as a leader. Each one of these books is only 3 months, so you have 4 of these a year, so I'm not sure how much I will love continuing to kind of stack them up, or whether or not I'll actually keep the previous month's books, because I don't really know how valuable it would be to ever go back in them, because it's not really like they're a journal or something that I need to kind of resurface or relook at. Really, the only things I might go back and look at would be the goals that I set in the beginning of the year, because these goal pages do allow you in the beginning of the year to write a goal and write the motivations behind the goal, write the next steps to achieve the goal, and then the reward when you actually achieve it. And then you have the goal tracker down below, the streak tracker they say, which keeps you keeping track of whether you're doing the goal or getting closer to the goal every single day. But plain and simple, what I've found is that the Full Focus Planner is a really, really good option for any type of person, because I think you really can make it what you want it to be. If you're like me and really you just want to get more focus on a specific day-by-day basis, it can be really valuable for that. If you're someone that prefers an overall paper calendar and you want to get better at your monthly goals and your weekly and your daily, it's great for that as well. If you have certain goals you want to achieve, it can be kind of whatever you want it to be, and I think you can use it as much or as little as you want. But I think even just the day pages by themselves in a paper form really do provide value to someone that can sometimes be busy with a lot of different things. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to mention, I got this pen off Amazon, It's called the Cross, I think it's called Cross Executive Pen or something. I don't know, I'll link it down below. It's amazing. It slides out and it writes so nice. So make sure you have yourself a nice pen, because without a nice pen, a paper planner is not so exciting.